Well, you have finally got here. You are listening to the Erskine Music Podcast. Here, by popular demand, we discuss life, culture, Christ, and of course, music. These half-hour broadcasts are perfect for a commute, coffee time, chat, or any other gap in your schedule where you want to put great content. So without further ado, let's join the conversation today, already in progress.
I want to share my influence with you guys today and bring on a very special guest. It is Rick Lee James who will be coming to the show today, and possibly, and I say that humbly, although I need to work on humility, but I say it humbly that this may be the best episode of the Erskine Music Show that we have ever seen. It's the Erskine Music Show. Let's go. All right. Without further ado, here, let's get to our breaking news. Our top story today, Rick Lee James and his music. Let's bring him on the show. Rick Lee James.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again, Erskine.
It's great to see you as well. You know what I'm going to do?
What's that?
I'm going to finish reading your bio because there's some things here on your bio, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know.
Okay.
This man who you see on the screen right here, this loving, dear, sweet, passionate, and compassionate man has effectively used music in his career, throughout his career, to spread the gospel in various settings, including the National Worship Leader Conference at the Ryman Auditorium. That's true? True, false?
Okay. Does it say at the Ryman Auditorium? Because I have played at the Ryman Auditorium.
Oh,
but
my bad.
The National Worship Leader Conference was actually in DC.
And the Ryman Auditorium. That was the and.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to goof it up.
That would be like a doubly impressive, wouldn't it?
I mean, fact check me. You should be playing at the Ryman Auditorium. All right. So let that go out there to whom it may concern. As the host of the Voices in My Head podcast, it is Rick Lee James who we celebrate here on the show today. All right, sir. There's a little thing that I do called 3 for 3. If you don't mind, no one has ever missed a question. In fact, it's impossible for you to miss a question.
Okay.
We'll get started with that introduction today, and then we'll just cook for a little bit. I just want people to just hear your heart, hear your music, and be able to experience just the joy that you have for the Lord. Here's a question for you today. I'm curious about this. You've been around long enough to have experienced tapes.
Yes.
Like audio tapes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the best thing about audio tapes? Was it A, winding it up with your pencil, unwinding it with your pencil? Was it B, splicing it? Was it C, making mixtapes? Or was it D, other?
I almost want to go with a combination of C and D, because the mixtape aspect was really cool to be able to just kind of record over and over, whatever's going on there.
Yes.
But then not only just a mixtape though. I mean, if you had a cassette recorder that, sometimes they had these little handhelds, they were great for songwriting, because you would just kind of like we do on our phones today or whatever. But I think they were even easier in some ways, because you just hit the record button and grab a guitar and you just start playing, and there's your demo, you're working on for the new song. And if it's no good, you can rewind, start it over again. And it just seemed like, even though the quality would get less and less, you could just keep using it over and over and over.
Sure.
I don't know how many cassettes that I, wore out completely. So kind of a combo of C and D.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously got that one right. So I would always end up in this situation where the tape had come out and like there's still too much of the tape left over. And you've got to try to wind it. So you're in there with your fingers and like you get
Yep.
a pencil and you're trying to wind that thing so that it gets back down to where the tape uh, is tight on the cassette. So anyway, some good memories, some things that I was thinking about today.
Indeed.
All right. It is the fall season. The
Mhm.
temperatures have reminded me that I can now no longer go out in a t-shirt or tank top. I'm going to need to put on a hoodie and some things like that. What's your favorite season, sir? We have fall, winter, spring, summer. We'll keep it at that. Fall, winter, spring, summer. Favorite season?
I really like fall.
Fall. It's your time.
What we're in right now. Yeah. Yeah, I just think I like being able to get the light jackets out, but not, bundled up to the core yet with scarves and gloves and all that, but just kind of a chill in the air and taking a nice walk where you're not, feeling like you're going to melt into a puddle. And that's just my sweet spot this time of year.
Yeah. Well, my wife says the same thing. She's like, finally, some relief from all the heat and the intensity. And I don't know if it's just my background or my nature, but I love, and I'm from Texas. And
Hmm.
so I love the heat. And then
Yeah.
when it gets to be 95 plus, that actually is my sweet spot. I have to
Oh,
pace
wow.
myself. Yeah, I have to pace myself so that I'm not just outside and get heat exhaustion. That's probably the way that it'll end for me because I just love heat so much that I go out and like if I'm pooling in sweat and like all those different things, I love it. I feel like the toxins are going out. I feel anyway, that's why I'm weird. Heat
Oh,
intensity all the time.
no,
Mm,
that's good. Everybody's got their own, so
yeah,
that
for
works for
sure, for
you.
sure. But yours is the right one because it is now this season. All right. Finally, the third question is your favorite Avenger. Favorite Avenger. And if you don't watch the Avengers at all, there
Mhm.
you still have a favorite Avenger. I know you do.
Yeah. Um, did I get air horn before I answered?
I mean,
Uh,
you're gonna get it right. That was the anticipation of getting this right.
all right. Well, I'm going to say I think Captain America is my
Yes!
favorite. Yeah, I love for me. It has and I'll tell you why. It has to me the counterpart to that in DC is Superman, because both Cap and Superman they are sort of an idealistic picture of what we want to aspire to be, not what we always can be. But I love in the second Avengers movie where Cap gets on everybody because they've been using bad language, and
Mm,
it's such an innocent, sweet, kind of moment, and everybody kind of makes fun of him for it. But to him, he's kind of like, no, we need to be the role model for people here, like we want to strive to be better. And then later in the movie, he says a bad word and somebody calls him on it, which to me, it's very interesting. Like, I'm glad they kind of did that because it shows that none of us are exactly where we need to be yet. And at the same time, he's that aspirational character that wants to be there and wants to help and wants to be the best of what humanity can be. So that's why I'm going to go with Captain America today.
absolutely. I could not concur any stronger with any greater intensity in my voice, but to just simply say, I've been trying to tell my kids this. They get distracted by all the Spider-Man stuff,
Hmm.
all the web slinging and, all the agility and everything. Well, that's fine. All the snarkiness. Okay, kids love that sort of thing. Iron Man, they get distracted by all the little toys that he has and all the bombs and all the different things. But listen, with great power comes great responsibility. And I know that that's a Spider-Man thing. But Captain America epitomizes that. Does he not?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and can I tell you my absolute favorite moment of Captain America?
You
Uh,
definitely should, as you should.
there's at least in the movies, the comic books, he's a little bit different, but in the movies, I love how Chris Evans played him, and I love. First of all, there's a lead-in scene with Captain America where we don't even see Cap yet. In the first Avengers movie, Loki is coming out and he's making that whole crowd bow down, and everybody is on their knees. They're terrified, and one little old Jewish man stands up, and Loki says something to him like, "You will bow," and he says, "Not to men like you," and Loki says, "There are no men like me," and he says, "There are always men like you," you know,
Woo,
and And Captain America comes in
folks,
right.
Listen.
Yeah. Captain America comes in right after that in that scene and basically affirms what this man says because he remembers World War II and the Nazis and Hitler. And this the power of like one man standing, and that kind of to me is the picture of what we see from Captain America. And then I love in his final film that he's in, where we all see that he's worthy to pick up Thor's hammer, and it's such a surprise. I don't know if we'll ever
Yes,
have
just
a
keep
movie
cooking.
experience. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever quite have an in-person movie experience like that, where I mean, people were practically standing on their chairs screaming in the theater at that time, and it was just prior to COVID. Everybody was still, like having a great time in the world. And again, we see Captain America standing up against odds that were just impossible, knowing that he probably wasn't going to succeed. And yet he stands up. I love when he picks up the hammer and Thor says, "I knew it." That part. So
this man didn't know anything about Captain America, but he is cooking.
Yeah.
What is going on? Why is my dog coming in here? Everybody say hello to Ginger. All right.
Hi, Ginger.
Get out of here, Ginger. All right. So now that we got all the distractions out of the way, let's talk about some music out there.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of go back and then I'll go into the future here because I want to show some recent things that you're doing, but I've been a part of your podcast before. And again, I want to say thank you for that. That was a season in which we were working, I believe, on Is He Worth It?
Is He Worth It? Yeah.
Yeah. And I got a chance to meet you during that time. And I thought, this guy is going to be a friend for a long time. And so I've been able to finally get you back on the show. I know you're busy. And so I thank you so much for your time. But tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. I know that we got a chance to talk about some things then, but you've updated and it's been a while since you've been on the show. And so give us a quick update. I'm going to pull up some things related to your profile so people can see that.
Well, thank you. Well, you know what? Currently, my everyday right now is I am trying vigorously to finish my graduate degree in healthcare chaplaincy, and it's taking a lot of time to do that. So I'm in 3 classes, so I'm a full-time student right now, but I'm also a chaplain when they need me at the hospital here in town and a music pastor. And as I was doing all of this new field that God was calling me into, wondering where in the world does music play into all this? I don't understand why I'm being called into this right now. It seemed like that was a new way for me to look at some different situations in life, to ways to tell some stories I know I would have never told before, to begin writing in a different manner than I had. So over the last couple of years, my focus has been in this healthcare chaplaincy arena. And when I finished my first unit of what's called clinical pastoral education, or a lot of people know it as CPE, where I did this full-time summer program, it was 40 hours a week. I had to drive an hour a day back and forth each way to get to this hospital. There was no pay involved, and it was so long and difficult. And throughout it, I started writing songs about the journey, and there was a song I released called As I Walk These Halls. And it really is about the experience of what it is that healthcare chaplains do specifically. And it started resonating with people. I released it at the end of my first unit of CPE, and I started getting calls from like the Dayton newspaper and different outlets I didn't expect to be hearing from, because I wasn't able to put a lot of time or money or into it other than just like a lyric video that I made myself. And I started having nurses, doctors, people in the hospital come to me and say, "I heard your song, and this feels not only like what chaplains do, this feels like what I do." I feel, one person said, "I feel like in my job at the hospital, the Holy Spirit roams these hallways."
Well, that certainly gives a sense of why people enjoy this show. Very engaging, very heartfelt. We will return to the conversation in a few moments, but first, let's thank our sponsors and you for all your awesome support. Moody Radio's Dawn and Steve Morning Show, Life Action Ministries, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and Holt International. Thanks so much to our partners who make such a difference.
Thanks, Jason. This is Dawn.
And this is Steve of Dawn and Steve in the Morning.
on Moody Radio. You can find us online at donandsteve.org, or you can listen through the Moody Radio app.
And as friends of the Erskine Music Show, we always enjoy the variety of topics our friend has on his show.
So, on behalf of our show, thanks, Erskine, for bringing great Christ-centered topics to the people.
All right, let's get back to the show. This is where it gets good.
And that we are agents of Christ's presence to people in this world. So my recent music that I've released, including a new song that is dedicated to healthcare workers. And I think even now this morning, I was thinking of the situation in Israel and what's going on,
Sure.
which adds a whole new dimension I didn't intend when I wrote the song. But this song is called Keep Watch, Dear Lord. And it's about, it says, keep watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or weep this night, and give your angels charge for those who are saving others' lives, and let them be as Christ to the dying ones who will draw their final breath, and let their hands soothe the suffering and bring the weary rest. And it's really a prayer in song form for what at the time I only had in mind fellow healthcare workers and not only and chaplains, but now I'm thinking about people all over the world who do this difficult work of going in and saving lives. I mean, that almost brings us back to the Captain America thing again,
Sure.
That people do the difficult thing even when there's no reward in it for them necessarily, other than the fact that they're not going to let the world change them in the midst of a world that is so difficult and challenging.
We got gems. You're throwing out gems. Well,
yeah,
we need to unpack some of this today.
Yeah.
But can we listen to a couple of moments of this song?
Please.
I think we
I'd
got
be
it up here,
grateful.
so we can do that.
Watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or weep this day. The healing hands bring solace near to grieving ones whose lives have changed. Let your compassion give them strength to lift the heavy load. With willing minds and open hearts to welcome every soul. Keep watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or who weep this day. Keep watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or weep in life. May they find you in the broken hearts of those for whom you gave your life. Give eyes to see you in the ones who are overlooked each day, and ears to hear you in the ones who have never had a say. Keep watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or weep in life.
All right. I want people to go out and buy that and to stream that, to playlist that. How else can they support that song and support you and your music?
Oh man, doing that's a big thing, or just even sharing it with a friend, especially if you have a friend that does that kind of work that is so self-sacrificial for other people. I really hope it'll be something that is an encouragement to people that don't often get encouragement in some ways. So that's a big way you can support. And then I was notified this last week that officially the song is up to be, if you're a person who votes for the Recording Academy for the Grammys, it's actually eligible and ready to be voted on. So yesterday that started. So if anybody wants to give it a little more exposure and votes in those categories, you're welcome to do that in one of the Christian categories. You can look up the song, but just whatever,
Grammy consideration.
Yeah, it's so that's kind of exciting.
After this show, soon to be Grammy nominated.
Well, and I don't expect that, but it's always, anytime we have a chance to put our music into a little bit larger platform, hopefully it's good not only for us, but hopefully a song like that I really hope will be an encouragement to people and a help to people in need. That's ultimately the goal when we release these things. I mean, I think the days are long past for most of us where we would ever dream of fame and fortune in music, but most of us have a mission and a purpose behind what we
Ooh,
want to
man, you
do
said a
and
word.
see with the song, and hopefully the more ears that can hear it, hopefully it brings more encouragement into the heart. We pray that the Lord, the Holy Spirit, would just work through the words and the music and kind of marry that in a way that will help people's hearts that need that encouragement from day to day. So yeah, just share it with somebody. That's the best thing I can think to do. So look at those
Yeah.
credits. You're so high tech with all this amazing show technology that you have
Brother, this is your website. So
here.
let me just reflect that back to you and tell you, hey, this is what, when you go to his website, rickleejames.com, this is what you'll see. There's a sample of the song that you can have there. Thank you for building the website so that I could have a part of the song on the show, and all the different links of different things that you could see while you were there. So
Mm,
really, that compliment goes to you, sir.
yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Want to ask you a quick question about something that is not quick at all. And it
Okay.
is this process of, you had talked about, fame and fortune. Sometimes fame and fortune can come fast. When fame and fortune come fast, that's sometimes a failing formula.
Mm, yeah.
When fame and fortune come fast, that's sometimes a failing formula. What the Lord often does is there's a lengthy process there that is the development of character, is the development of perseverance, it's the development of faith, and it's the development of trust. It's the development of a team around you. It's the development of people around you that will support you and that you can support as well. Talk to me about the process of how you have gotten to the place where you're at,
Mm.
starting with 9 months before you came to this world. No, just kidding.
Well, I certainly have not achieved fame and fortune, so that's I can check that off the list for sure. But you're right.
But God knows.
Yeah, and you know what? I think if that is your motivation, um, there are very few artists, I think, who keep that as their motivation. Maybe Gene Simmons from Kiss. He's one that I've heard talk about it many times. Like all he wanted to do was, get as much money as possible, and he still just markets everything. If that's your goal, that's probably what you'll get. Um, but I don't know that makes you a success necessarily.
Mm,
And I think if your goal is to be a person who is truthful and wants to be authentic with the music that they're making, and by the way, I'm sorry if you're hearing background noise. The dryer is going in the other room and it just buzzed, so I
that's okay.
apologize in
My dog
advance.
is jumping up into my show. So
My dogs will probably make an appearance here soon too. Um, but
excellent out the
I
window here.
yes, but I think if your goal is simply to succeed in that way, I mean, be careful because it might happen, but you might not be the
Mm,
success that you want to have. Um, I think you're right. I look back, honestly, yesterday I did something I haven't done in maybe ever. I'm getting ready to do a concert at a Hutch Moot. Well, it's like a house moot, kind of an extension of what Hutch Moot is there in Nashville, if you know what that is, that Andrew Peterson and Pete Peterson do and things like
oh,
that.
yeah.
And so there's kind of an extension of that. We're doing one in Ohio, in Chillicothe next
Oh,
weekend,
cool.
actually. So I'm playing a concert there in the evening, and I thought, I wonder, I haven't gone through and just to see um, like my past music in a while, and I kind of wondered out of curiosity. I went on Spotify for artists, and I just went, I wonder what like my top 20 songs are like on, not on Spotify. I'm never going to be on the Spotify top 20, but on my playlist, what are the songs that people have listened to and shared the most of my songs? And it was really interesting as I just kind of went through and made a list of songs from from years ago when I first started to songs that are more recent, and I felt like I had grown as a writer, looking back at some of those, and I thought it might be a fun way to, like, in concert, maybe I could just kind of do a history of, like, me as a writer and where I've come and things I thought were really good at the time that I still don't think are bad, but as listening now and as you continue to kind of uh, duke it out in writing, as a songwriter, you hear things maybe you didn't hear at
Mm,
one time, and you're like, "Oh, I wish I could go back and fix that one line or that one word. I think would change the
sure.
whole meaning of that line of the song."
Yeah,
So
that's
to
kind of one
me,
of those things that's a challenge because as a creative, Like that process is continually going.
Hmm.
And when you have to record a song, even the process of recording a song and saying, okay, this is the song, this is what's being released to the world, it kind of fixes that in time and space
Hmm.
to the degree where you can no longer play with things. Like I'm a tinkerer. I'm always a tinkerer. There's songs that are recorded a certain way, but if you ever hear me do them live, I will add different words at different places, because that's, after further reflection, that's probably what I should have said or what I could have said. And so there's the recorded version that people get, and then there's the live version. And I think it's a testament to what it is that you're talking about there, that there's this creative process that continues to go in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes I do that too, but it's on accident because I forgot the words and I sang them.
Well,
I sang them.
little trick of the trade there. Don't let the words stop you from doing the show.
That's right.
You can think of new words.
Why is he singing Billie Jean in the middle of that worship song? That's weird. Anyway, no,
Exactly.
that's such a good question though. Like as far as what I think, what if I get back to the original question you had asked, I
Hmm.
think you're asking kind of what makes you a success. And
Ooh, I
and
didn't say it like that, but
well,
here, you, sir, go.
I think in essence, like you have to define first of all what you feel like a success is,
Hmm.
and what that means is a success that I get to record some music and play out once in a while at a coffee house and just enjoy life and do my daily job is a success. That this is my sole living that I'm doing, and I'm only known for my music. Um, and however you would define that, if you just want to be wherever God wants me, being used in those moments, if I've followed as faithfully as I know how to, and maybe that's my definition of what a success is. So everybody maybe is going to define that a little differently, but I think it helps to have maybe even a vision statement sometimes of what that is.
Sure.
What's the goal that you're aiming for?
Can you tell us what
One
yours is?
Well, yeah, in a sense, yeah. One, and it's changing a little bit too, which is
Okay.
is interesting, because on my website, into my logo, there is kind of my mission statement. Hear it, sing it, live it, and and the idea that was behind that was not so much about hearing my music and singing my music, but hearing from God and what God would speak to all of us together. And as we hear it, we sing it and then we live it. It's sort of like this thing where it comes maybe into our heart and then out of our mouth and then in a place that we kind of come to live it. So that was quite simply kind of the mission statement at the time a couple of years ago when I was challenged to make one of those. And then you start to reevaluate those things too. When I entered in to chaplaincy, they actually focus very much when you're in your clinical pastoral training on having goals for each unit that you're in, and it's
Hmm.
a really difficult thing because there's things that you want to learn. They may be things you won't learn, so you're trying to fit it into like not your whole life, but like in these next 3 months as you're learning. You have these three goals in mind. One's an educational goal, one's a goal about yourself and what you're going to find. And I found that as I would create new goals or create things like I want to challenge this myth that I have about myself. Why do I tell myself that I'm unworthy? Why do I tell myself that I don't deserve ever to be anywhere, that I don't have any gifts, that I'm an imposter, things like that. It really helps
Stinking
you to
thinking.
confront, yeah, it helps you to confront those lies that
Hmm.
we all tell ourselves. For me, the goal switched in the middle of CPE. Almost the mission changed. I
Okay.
don't in some ways, I don't think I understood, and I said this to my educator one time. I said, "I don't think until I got into chaplaincy, I don't think I really understood ministry."
Well, you probably already know that when you hear that sound, there's music on the way. After all, this is kind of a music show. Sit back and enjoy. All the music can be easily found on your favorite digital distribution channels. Turn up the volume and here we go.
was a castaway, running from it. How did I last the day? But you found me running into a greater light. I was blind when I found my sight. Oh, I tried changing the way I was thinking, but I couldn't do it alone. The gospel gave me a reason for living a new life in Jesus alone. Now it's changing, oh it's changing, it's changing everything. My resurrection feels like I'm running free. Life is so different than what it used to be. Testify, rescue. I'm never going back, not defined by a broken past. Oh, I tried changing the way I was thinking, but I couldn't do it alone. The gospel gave me a reason for living a new life in Jesus alone. Now it's changing, oh it's changing, it's changing everything. Anything is possible with Jesus in my life. There's nothing more incredible than God so loved the world. Oh, the gospel gave me a reason for living a new life in Jesus alone. I tried changing the way I was thinking, but I couldn't do it alone. The gospel gave me a reason for living a new life in Jesus alone. Now it's changing, oh it's changing, yeah it's changing. Oh now it's changing, it's changing everything.
All right, let's get back to the show. This is where it gets good.
Doing
Ooh.
it for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden you have something that was just a slight tweak to the way you look at things, but it just transformed my whole paradigm.
It
And
unlocks some things.
yeah, and I can tell you what that was, and it's even
Okay,
changing
tell us.
the way I write songs. I was in an interview where they were asking me some questions about my experience and whether I would continue on in the program because I was eventually invited to become what's called a resident, where you actually do get paid, to
Yeah.
do some things. And in my interview for that residency, one of the persons interviewing me, he asked this question. He said, "When you think of your ministry, do you want people to see Jesus in you, or do you want to see Jesus in that person in front of you?" And
Mm.
my initial thought was, well, I want people to see Jesus in me. Or then I thought about it and I said, well, okay, I mean, I guess maybe both, kind of.
Can it
And
be A and B?
yeah,
Trick
and
question.
and as chaplains will often do, he kind of stops and he goes, well, perhaps, but where you start makes a lot of the difference. And he referred to Matthew 25, where Jesus says, "Whatever you've done to the least of these, you've done it to me." And it made me look at that whole passage in a new light. Like,
Mm.
what if every day our task is not so much that I want everybody to see how Jesus-y I am, but it would transform everything if I started to just look at where I could see Jesus in that person in front of me. Those
Wow.
people in the hospital rooms, people who may not even have any interest in faith at all. Somehow we are still finding Jesus in the suffering. We are still finding Jesus there in those places.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that now somebody might hear that and think, well, duh, I knew that. But for me, it was revolutionary. It like changed.
If they're out there, they're saying, "Duh, I knew that." They probably stopped watching
Uh,
this show a long time ago because
oh man,
we're not saying anything new. There's nothing new under the sun that we have said on this
yeah,
show, but it's just a lot of reminders of good and truthful and beautiful things that we've discussed.
mm,
So you continue.
for sure. Well, when I started looking at ministry differently now, it was I started looking at the word witness differently when we are
Mm,
told to be witnesses in this world. And there's a couple different meanings behind that word witness. One is it's where we get the word martyr from. And in some ways, I think we have only looked at the word witness as a way to proclaim. Let me witness to you. Let me tell you this good thing. And yet the word witness is literally tied into the word martyr, which is about laying down ourselves,
yeah.
laying down our lives for others.
Galatians 2:20 type of
Yeah,
perspective there.
yes, exactly. And then when we think also, what does a witness get called in for in like a court trial or something? They're called in because they have been witness to something in most cases, or they're an expert on something in that
Hmm.
field. And it's interesting to me that we are called to be what in the chaplaincy field we are to see people as living human documents, or as the Apostle Paul I think would say, living letters that we see before us. And as we witness that life of another person, maybe sometimes in silence, just allowing them to speak, allowing them the presence of ourselves, just to be in the room with them while they share their story, while we get to hear that perspective that has dealt with something very important and significant, and they've dealt with it differently than we have.
Yeah.
Okay, if you know, I'm a white man, so if I walk into a room with an elderly black gentleman who has lived for years, and he has walked with race differently than I have, I need to hear his story. I need to make that bow to this person. Or if
Bro,
I walk with
you're in the right spot, bro, because everything that you're saying is just like your demeanor, your presentation of, your understanding of. I'm like, this is what this is this dude. He is
mm,
that guy. He
yeah,
is he is him, guys. He is him.
mm, wow. Yeah, thank you for saying that. You were so
But
kind.
continue, sir.
Well, and you know, I was thinking too, and this will connect to songwriting in just a moment, I promise. For those of you that are wondering where the song connection is,
Yeah, I know you're
um,
cooking. You're about to cook.
there there have been incidences in the hospital where there have been people who I couldn't speak their language, people that were from Rwanda, refugees who were here in the country, and they were fearful. You know, they were scared of what they might be receiving in the food in the hospital. They'd been told different stories, and even like sometimes you really have to work hard to hear a person. Like it
Mm,
means calling in a translator sometimes getting them from another city and making that vow. But I really believe now when I hear that word witness, I hear it in a completely different way than I used to. It is very little about what I say. It is so much about what I hear coming from that other person. And
right.
then trying to say it back to them, saying, "Did I hear you correctly? Like, I want to make sure I'm not misrepresenting what I heard today. Can you tell me this and tell me your experience?" And it's been so fruitful for me. So getting back to songwriting, how in the world does all this listening help us, in songwriting? I think as songwriters, or any kind of writer, or any person that's going to communicate effectively, most of us are not very good listeners. We're often
Mm,
about the next thing that we
this
want
is
to share with
James.
somebody. And we know most of us are always waiting to, uh, not really listening to the person because we're just waiting for our place to interject into the conversation.
Hmm.
But what a beautiful witness for us if we can witness the life of another person, um, to really stop and hear their story. And what if, as songwriters, we find ways to tell those stories for people that haven't been able to tell them before? That song that you had just played, the last verse that you played, at at the end of the verse talks about ears to hear you in the ones who have never had a say. There's so many
Mm,
people we often talk about people, giving voice to the voiceless. Well, most people do have voices. We're just not listening to them. And so maybe part of our gospel call, maybe it's even to listen to people that we completely disagree with sometimes. That may not be healthy on an all the time basis, but it may be very healthy and helpful for that person that would accuse us of never hearing what they have to say.
Mm.
Sitting down with people who have a completely different agenda, maybe a completely different politic than we have, and just asking them, "Would you tell me your story? Can I hear why you feel that way? Because I want to hear you." And to be non-judgmental and non-anxious about it, and not to feel threatened by it, but just to say, "I need to hear the story from another human being." I fail at it all the time. But again, if we're being
Let him cook. Let
aspirational,
him cook.
we're gonna get back to where we started with Captain America, with being aspirational. I think we aspire to be those things. We may not on this side of eternity ever become fully those things, but that's what we hopefully can try to be. So that word witness, if we could learn to be better witnesses, I think that we would actually be better at our craft too.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. People don't talk this way anymore. And so I have to be very careful when I use this type of terminology, because those of you who know our support for police, law enforcement, and for those who are doing good things with the privileges and the responsibilities that they have, we bless them. And for those who are doing bad things with that, obviously we want transparency with those things. I feel like you have to say that these days anymore, Rick Lee. But we would make a great team, because it's kind of a good cop, bad cop kind of thing going on here. As an evangelist, I totally step into that role, and I'm just like, Lord, you just made me hype. Like, in all the ways that are like, I'll go stand out on the bridge and I'll tell people and I'll proclaim to people. But there is that other side of it, right? That you're talking about there. That's the beauty of, let's listen, let's absorb, let's wait, let's care. Like, I mean, I care, but my caring looks different than your caring. And that's like, it's a beautiful thing, because in the body of Christ, like, we have all of those different things. I'll often tell people, like, hey, if you meet me and my presentation and my style is not what you want, like my wife, she makes cookies, she's a very nice person. I know people who do nice things and nice things, but at some point you need to hear what it is that I have to say. And so I'm all about that, telling people and not apologizing for it. But like, that's why we have the body of Christ. That's why we need one another. That's why we need to hear and present and to know and to express things certain ways. And certainly you have done that in your music. You've done that in your life. And I think one of the things that you said that was so vital and so important is that your theology, or i.e. your starting point, dictates your direction. If there's a takeaway that I could come away with this, or that I can just boil that down for artists and creatives who are watching this today, your starting point dictates your direction. And so if you're starting in a particular place and headed in a particular direction, then where you start is ultimately where it is you're going to go. And so thank you so much for that, friend. Thank you for coming on the show. It's the Rick Lee James Show today.
No, well, thank you so much. I just had one thought. Do we have enough time to comment really quickly on what
We're
you just
making
said?
enough time.
Okay.
Because you can
all
do
right.
that when you're
All
not
right.
bound to. I got out of slavery a long time ago.
I'll be quick. You just said something that made me think of my hero, Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh, Mr. Rogers
right.
is all coming back around.
That's right. So Fred Rogers said to reporters and people that were interviewing him and stuff, he would say, "When you listen, you minister to me." And it's interesting, because I think on that same level, with your proclamation, with your style as an evangelist, and we all need to be that at some level, at some point. There's a give and take to that, isn't there?
Sure.
Where also, when someone listens to you with your proclamations, they are also ministering to you in that moment, aren't they?
Praise the Lord.
It goes both ways. You're actually, it's this gift that you're giving, it's a gift that you're receiving, and it goes back and forth in both of those ways. So that's what a beautiful way maybe for us to look at like the gift of being able to proclaim to others. If nobody's listening, it's not very fun to speak, is it, or to sing a song? So
Praise the
even
Lord.
as songwriters, maybe just my last thought on songwriting today is this: when we are proclaiming and when we are giving this message, don't take the people that you're giving that to lightly. Like, have an attitude of gratitude to those people who are ministering to you by listening too. In some ways, like I think years ago, I would get agitated that maybe more people didn't show up. I have this concert. Why didn't these people? And I might overlook the 25 people in the room who were there because I was focused on who wasn't. And what a beautiful gift that is for those 25 people, that they would take time out to come and hear me, that they would come to be witnesses to what we were sharing. And so just bringing all that back together into songwriting. Witness works both ways. And so we're grateful for everybody, even those who are watching today.
That might be a song. Hey, normally I'll give my guests fireworks when they go out, but since you said so many incredible things today, I think we probably through this episode are going to break the internet. And so
oh my,
you crushed it, my friend, as always, as you do. And so how can we be praying for you as you continue on?
Thank you for that. Pray that God helps my doing not to exceed my being. I'm so busy.
He's
right
a human
now.
being, not a human doing.
Yes, exactly. And life is really busy. I wish I could stay and talk with you all day if that was even possible, but psychology class calls later today for this master's degree that I'm working on, and trying to continue in ministry, trying to continue as a husband and a father, and just lots going on. So if anyone wants to add me to their prayer list, that my doing would not exceed my being, and that God would just not help me not to burn out in the midst of all this doing that's going on. So thank you for asking that.
And we do have a praying audience that's out there, and so they are lifting up those prayers even as we speak. And so thank you so much for your time. That is a precious commodity, and I know, Lord, know that the Lord gives us that for the express and intent purposes of being, not just doing. And so thank you for that reminder. And I look forward to getting you back on the show again at some point.
And likewise, I need to have you back on Voices in My Head. I've just not had time to get it all done lately. So
look, there's that time.
Let's remedy that soon.
Yes, definitely. Well, God bless you, sir.
You as well. Thank you.
You have a fantastic day.
We have come to the end of this episode. Don't miss a final word from Erskine.
Hey guys, tell your friends about this show. And as always, I look forward to your interactions. Please contact us as you are able. We love to hear from you. Okay, friends, let's go and make a difference.